Ethel Watson was a force to be reckoned with. At 88, her arthritis made her knees creak, and she had an unfortunate habit of misplacing her glasses atop her fluffy white hair, but beneath the soft wrinkles and kind eyes beat the heart of a hurricane. One sunny Tuesday, Ethel found herself in a spot of bother. It all started with her blasted cat, Cleo. The furry fiend had a knack for vanishing into thin air, and Ethel had spent a good hour rummaging through cupboards and muttering sweet nothings mixed with the occasional curse. Suddenly, she caught a flash of orange fur disappearing, not under the sofa or behind the curtains, but through a shimmering, swirling portal of light nestled against her garden shed. Ethel was never one to back down from a challenge. Grabbing her walking stick and a spare bag of Cleo's favourite treats, she launched herself into the swirling vortex with a battle cry that would have made her army veteran husband proud. When she tumbled out the other side, Ethel found herself on a cold metal floor with blinking lights and more buttons than all the sewing machines in the parish hall. Cleo was busy sniffing a strange creature, all tentacles and oversized grumpy eyes. The creature squawked something unintelligible, and a whole troop of similar beings rushed over, weapons bristling like a hedgehog in a bad mood. They chirped and beeped at her, their bulbous heads swiveling in confusion. Ethel, however, was utterly unfazed. "Goodness me," she exclaimed, peering at them over her glasses. "Don't you lot look uncomfortable in those tight suits? Here, let me knit you some nice sweaters." Before they could protest, she had her knitting needles out. The clicking was oddly soothing against the backdrop of alien squawks. A few hours later, the fearsome commander of the spaceship sported a rather fetching lilac sweater complete with a pom-pom. The rest of the crew watched with a mixture of bewilderment and awe as Ethel offered them cookies, freshly baked in the ship's impossibly high-tech oven, of course. Word of the cookie-baking, sweater-knitting granny spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Fearsome warriors, hardened pirates, and intergalactic diplomats all found themselves drawn to her quarters, a strange mix of homey warmth and sterile spaceship tech. Soon, Ethel had instituted her best-behaved badges. These were simple, felt circles with smiley faces that she pinned to the chests of those who followed her surprisingly strict rules. No shouting in the corridors, no pushing in the lunch line, and absolutely, positively, no laser pistol fights before nap time. The transformation of the galaxy's fiercest was something to behold. Burly space pirates mumbled apologies and picked up dropped cookie crumbs. Battle-hardened generals found themselves braiding yarn with surprising tenderness. Whispers of Grandma Ethel echoed through space stations, spoken with a strange mixture of fear and affection. News of this peculiar phenomenon eventually reached the Supreme Galactic Council. A delegation of the galaxy's finest minds, beings with more eyes, tentacles, and holographic appendages than Ethel could count, arrived to assess the situation. What they found was a scene of utter absurdity. The fearsome warlord Zog, known for vaporizing entire planets on a whim, was perched on a tiny stool, a half-finished pink sweater with lopsided bunnies in his enormous claws. Ethel watched with a satisfied nod, occasionally offering a gentle correction. "There you go, dear, pearl stitch next, not knit." "Madam," sputtered the council's flustered spokesperson, a lobster-like creature with 7 blinking eyes. This is unacceptable. You are human, a primitive species barely capable of space travel." Ethel patted his claw reassuringly. Now, dearie. Don't get yourself in a tizzy. Everyone has potential." She then proceeded to deliver a 20-minute lecture on the importance of table manners, the proper way to fold a blanket, and the dangers of slouching. The council members, whether scaled, feathered, or covered in luminescent slime, listened with the dazed expressions of scolded schoolchildren. By the time the delegation retreated, their heads spinning, a profound shift had occurred within the galaxy. The Galactic Council now included subcommittees for proper nap time implementation and the interplanetary benefits of sharing. Disputes that would have once ignited full-scale wars were instead negotiated over cups of tea and gentle reminders to use an indoor voice. Ethel wasn't one to rest on her laurels. She decided the galaxy needed a touch of home. With astonishing determination, she transformed the ship's hydroponics bay into a riotous English country garden. Roses bloomed alongside strange, glowing fungi, the smell of lavender mingling with the sterile tang of spaceship air. In this little oasis, she could often be found with a steaming cup of tea, Cleo curled up beside her, surrounded by rough-hewn aliens awkwardly attempting to cross-stitch. But even grandmas need their rest. Sometimes Ethel missed Earth, the smell of rain on warm pavement, her weekly bingo nights, and the soft chirp of robins in her tiny backyard. So, one day, she announced it was time to go home. There were tears, even from the gruffest space pirates, heartfelt speeches that made even Ethel sniffle, and promises to keep practicing civilized behavior. Finally, with a mountain of knitted farewell gifts and enough cookies to feed a small solar system, Ethel stepped back through that shimmering portal. She emerged in her humble garden, blinking in the sunlight. Cleo rubbed against her ankles, purring loudly. It seemed like she had only been gone a few minutes. Then, from inside the house, she heard the familiar beep of the timer. Her prize-winning strawberry jam was ready. A soft smile spread across Ethel's face. She might have accidentally conquered the galaxy, but some things were far more important. It was time to put the kettle on. The news of Ethel's return spread through the galaxy even faster than her cookie-baking revolution had. Ships packed with knitted blankets, exotic flowers that bloomed only under the light of 3 suns, and messages of love began arriving on Earth. Initially, the world reacted with the expected confusion and panic. Military agencies scrambled, world leaders held emergency summits, and the general public filled social media with photos of alien crafts and an abundance of shocked cat memes. Ethel was having none of it. Armed with a teapot and an unwavering glare, she confronted presidents and prime ministers on their doorsteps. "Honestly," she'd scold, "haven't you lot got more important things to do? Put those silly guns away and get me some proper yarn. Admiral, what's his name, makes a simply dreadful cup of tea." And surprisingly, the world listened. The soldiers were assigned knitting duty. Scientists found themselves translating tender alien poems. World leaders held summits not to strategize for war, but to argue over who got the honor of baking the next batch of cookies to ship off to galactic Grandma. Ethel lived to a ripe old age. Her home, a bizarre and beautiful blend of earthly decor and intergalactic oddities. She hosted tea parties, where humans in stiff suits sat next to slimy diplomats and tentacled generals, all united by their love for Ethel and her potent blend of no-nonsense kindness. When she finally closed her eyes for the last time, surrounded by a sea of familiar faces, both human and decidedly not, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Earth mourned, the galaxy wept, but somewhere, amidst the afterlife, Grandma Ethel was undoubtedly setting about introducing its denizens to the joys of an adequately yarned sock and the unyielding power of a well-placed now, dearie.